Hello, and welcome to Abilities United presents Community Connections, a program dedicated to those individuals living with a developmental or physical challenge. I'm Andrea Throndson, Community Connections Developer. Tonight we have a really exciting program. Our theme is Bridging Communities with our local colleges. We have several very interesting guests and 2 field shoots that will show what type of volunteer work we do out in the community. With me now is Ross Smith, a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a counselor at West Valley College. Welcome, Ross.
Good evening.
This topic is so interesting. Let's start at the very beginning and go back and tell me what got you interested in working with different populations?
It actually goes back to when I was in high school. I belonged to the Key Club, which is a service organization here in Palo Alto.
Okay.
And I got involved with, at the time it was CAR, doing volunteer activities, Friday night dances and paper drives to collect money for the swimming pool that they have there. And so I got involved at that point in working with people with disabilities. And then I ended up getting my degree in social work and master's in counseling. And I've always had a real desire to work with this population. And currently I've been working for 20 plus years in a variety of different organizations working with people with disabilities.
Wow. So if you can go back to when you very first started, what was it? Did you have disabilities in your family, or did you just have an interest?
Oftentimes it is because people have someone in their family. I didn't, but my mother, I remember working in Palo Alto. I think it was the Crippled Children's Society or something at that. This was back in the 50s.
Wow.
And I remember going with her every week to work with, she worked with really young children at the time. And I was so young, I don't remember specifically about it, but there is a slight connection there. And I don't know how it led to me into this field later on, but I think there was a bit of a connection there.
Right. And when you were in high school, I mean, that's pretty young to start doing volunteer work. Do you remember how it made you feel as a high school student to be helping others that maybe weren't as fortunate?
Well, the interesting thing is we would do dances, for example, on Friday night. And it was just kind of like any other dance. I mean, these young people wanted to have the same experience as everybody else had. And we were a part of that. So it didn't feel any different at the time.
Right.
But of course, people that didn't do it, that's how you're spending your Friday nights.
Right.
And they didn't understand that when you got into that situation, got very comfortable, and I just thought that's the way you spend your Friday nights. And so that's what it was for 2 years in high school.
Well, we've still been having those same dances, and they are still the most fun.
I wonder if you still have the jute box that we had, though. We had a jute box.
Okay, no.
It played records.
That is not there, but
Yeah.
too fun.
Yeah.
So then fast forward to your career now. What exactly is it that you do?
Okay. I actually have 2 careers. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Los Altos. I have a private practice on a part-time basis. My full-time job is I'm a counselor in the Disability Education and Support Program at West Valley College. So I work primarily with students with disabilities in a variety of different aspects of their college career. I do all the things a general counselor does, as well as the disability aspect of accommodations, disability management, working with instructors, faculty, things like that.
So then let's paint a picture for someone. What are the differences if you are counseling a student that doesn't have a disability? What are some of the differences for those that do have a different ability?
The one thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is advocacy. One of the things we really feel very strongly about is helping students to learn how to advocate for themselves. Because in a community college, we work with a group of students that we have real good connection with, and we learn a lot about what their strengths and weaknesses are. When they go out to a university or a workplace, they're not going to have this kind of attention.
Right.
So we think it's really important that they learn how to self-advocate. And so if they have difficulties with that, we can work with the instructors as well as the student, again, teaching the student how to advocate for themselves. So I think that's the number one thing, is because they're going to deal with these disabilities the rest of their life.
Right. And that's a beginning, that's a stepping stone for them. If
Absolutely.
they can learn how to do it in a smaller environment, then hopefully they're going to go out into the world, into a career, or with their families even, and be able to advocate for themselves.
And they can, the other thing that I think is important is they can make mistakes there in a community college, and it's not a big deal. You know, when they make it out in the workforce, they could get fired. If they make it at a university, they could be asked to leave. There's all sorts of much more severe consequences. If they make mistakes in a community college, that's what we're there for.
You can pick up the pieces.
Exactly, and talk about how can we do things differently next time so they don't have the same outcome.
Right, right. So now that we're talking about integration, advocacy, and so forth, what was it like 50 years ago for people with disabilities? What kind of services did they get?
Well, first of all, what I remember, and also have done some research on, it was a lot of workshops, a lot of workshops where they would do people would do very simple tasks in a sheltered environment, not with working with people that are in the regular integrated community. So that's probably the biggest thing, is a lot of workshops. You didn't see people out in the community as you do now in terms of integrate, being anywhere from a grocery store to West Valley College to any place else. We didn't see those things.
Right. So the picture 50 years ago is one that we all stereotype. It's people with different abilities staying at home or going to a sheltered workshop, being isolated and considered different from the regular population.
Absolutely, and you look at just off across the freeway, Ag News. I mean, Ag News was full at that point. Again, because I think in some cases they didn't have places in the community for them to go out and be. So they had them in the state mental hospitals, and I think when they started putting them out in the community, I think that was a good thing, because I think that was the beginning of really the integration that we have today, which clearly is not enough, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Right, and that's where we've developed the Community Connections program, and now we've got 35 partnerships out in the community where our our volunteers go out and actually do work and so forth. So before we talk about any more integration, I want to take a look at this West Valley tape. We've got a group of students that actually comes to your school and works every Tuesday and does volunteer work. So let's have a look.
Great.
What kind of job do we do here?
What we've had you do is correlate papers, sort papers, a lot of shredding and stapling, and so a variety of basic office work. For us, it's been a great experience. It's been a wonderful partnership to have some extra staff in the office, and everyone's been so wonderful, cheerful, and productive. You come and put in hard work, and it's been an amazing experience for us, and we enjoy it.
Well, working with West Valley College gives the participants an opportunity to kind of be a part of campus life. They not only go back and work in the shredding room, but before we start our job, we walk around campus so the participants can get a feel of how it is to be a community college student, and not only just work and volunteer in the office. So it's great for them because they get to interact with students walking by saying hi, and the students get to see that this population really is much different from themselves. It really gives them the opportunity to see that they're not different than everybody else, and that they're not isolated, that they're just as able as the students that go here, just in different ways.
Oh, I'm so inspired when I see these videos. You know, I go down to the West Valley site, and you know, it's one thing when we talk about integrating our participants into the community and so forth, but that extra piece of integrating them into their peer groups, this is the first time we've ever worked on a college campus. And to see them, because they instinctively know, they instinctively know their age group and so forth. And they get down there on this college campus and they light up. They just absolutely light up. They interact with the other students. Can you speak a little bit to how important that is to integrate with peer groups and integrate into society?
I think it works both ways. I think both participants, both the college students benefit as well as the participants from Abilities United. I think the reason being is because too often when we don't know, for example, we haven't been around people with disabilities, it's kind of a scary thing for some people.
Yeah.
And then when they see them out in the college campus, they find out they're different, but we're all different. I mean,
Yeah.
and then they can be very friendly, they can start a conversation. And I think this helps students to see that this is the way society is supposed to be. We're supposed to be out working, going to school, being together in events, functions, that sort of thing. So I just think it adds a tremendous amount of value to the students at West Valley as well as the participants.
That's a really good point, because I noticed, in developing these sites, at first when you approach someone and say, we're going to bring a group in, we're going to do volunteer work, they're a little nervous. They don't know what to expect. They've not had this before. And boy, within a month or so, because our participants, they have gifts and they have talents that you or I probably wouldn't have, because they're very good at special like doing the shredding or doing some of the routine activities over and over. And I think that it's important for the rest of the community to see how valuable they are.
And I think you've picked a good time, because the tough economy we have right now, I mean, at West Valley and other colleges, it's difficult. I mean, we're doing a lot of work with less staff people. And so when people come in and offer to do some aspect of someone else's job, for example, that is not being done or is stretching somebody, this can be a real asset right now. And so I think in some ways the timing is good. And I just think, as you said, not enough people think about what can really be done. And that's why when you guys go out in the community, if you can help people to better understand and show videos like you just showed, what they can do and what a difference it can make, it's not just the job, as you were saying before. It's the true integration into society, whether it be the school, whether it be work, whether it be some kind of event.
And it comes back to quality. It comes back to the quality of their life. They deserve as much quality in life as we get as well.
And you said, and I've seen this with students before, because we work with a group of students from Saratoga High School, and how, as you say, that I think your term was right on in terms of how they light up when they get on the campus, because they really feel they're a part of the campus, which they are.
Yeah.
And they really start to feel that they're with their peers, and they're like everybody else that goes to college.
And they may not be able to express it in those exact terms, but their body language and their excitement and seeing them in the van going and saying, I'm going to work, is so crucial. Let's talk a little bit about resources. Our participants are in a day program, or they're seeing an ILS trainer. That's still a limited amount of time in a given week. What sort of advice do you give to parents and to the students as far as integrating themselves when they're outside of the programs?
Well, I think it comes back to treating them like you do anybody else, in terms of whether it be going to the store, whether it be doing some other kind of activity during the week. I think that's important. I think the regional center is a good resource in terms of finding activities, because there are a number of things out in the community. But I just think being part of the community, doing the same things the rest of us do, going to the farmers market on Saturday mornings, trying to help parents understand that the more they get their kids out, the more comfortable everybody will be in those kind of circumstances and situations. So I think that's my best advice, is just from their aspect, really try to integrate in the community in terms of anything they do. Try to have their young adults go along with them to see what it's like, what kind of activities exist out there.